So in our previous jazz analysis video, we worked on Bye Blackbird, and I showed you how to work with Mapping Tonal Harmony Pro to help you study jazz harmony. But Bye Blackbird was a pretty straightforward progression with no modulations. Today, let's take a look at all the things you are. So you probably played the song 100 times, but have you ever actually analyzed it? This is a much more involved progression, so let's take a look at it. As always, remember to turn off the analysis like we did in our previous video. I'll assume you know how to do it in Mapping Tonal Harmony Pro. If not, make sure to check the Bye Blackbird video where we show you how to modify this feature on macOS and iOS versions of the app. All right, so here I have all the things you are with just the chords. As always, the first thing we're going to do is mark all the dominants that resolve a perfect fifth down with an arrow. And also the minor 7 or minor 7 flat 5 chords that precede them, also by a movement of a perfect fifth in the roots. These we'll mark with a bracket. These are the related two chords. By doing this, we'll have all of the 2 5s that resolve to a target. All right, so we have all the 2 5s that resolve a perfect fifth down. Now in Bye Blackbird, all the arrow brackets were targeting an F major 7 or an F6 chord. So it was really easy to see that the entire song was in the key of F major. But in all the things you are, we're targeting lots of different chords, and many of them are major 7 chords. This is a clear indication that this song contains quite a few modulations in it. And sure, it could be the case that all these arrow brackets are modulations. But let me show you how we can improve on our marking of the score to help us find out where the modulations actually are. So now we're going to mark all the minor 7 chords that resolve to another minor 7 chord with a circled bracket. I'll show you why this is really useful in a second. F minor 7 resolves to B flat minor 7. That's a perfect fifth down. So I'll mark it with a circled bracket like this. C minor 7 to F minor 7, also a perfect fifth down. Here's the same progression again, F minor 7 to B flat minor 7. D flat minor 7 to C minor 7 isn't a perfect fifth down, so we don't need a circled bracket here. All right, so why is this useful? Well, a bracket arrow is a 2 5 that resolves to the expected target, right? Remember, we use 2 5s to tonicize targets, but if we go one more chord backward in the circle of fifths, we get a 6 2 5 1. And that's a much stronger tonicization. Now, we have a clear indication that A flat major is a great candidate for being the one chord here. Many people interpret this F minor at the beginning as a possible tonic. The song starts in F minor, and at the end, there's a 2 5 of F minor, G minor 7 flat 5 to C7. So at first glance, all the things you are seems to be in F minor. But now that we've marked the 6 2 5 1s, we can see that A flat major is tonicized way stronger than F minor. But before we draw any conclusions, let's mark one more thing. I'm going to mark all the major 7 or major 6 chords that resolve to another major chord by a perfect fifth down with a circled arrow. So A flat major 7 to D flat major 7 needs a circled arrow. D flat major 7 is not followed by a major chord, so we don't need it here. E flat major 7 to A flat major 7 definitely needs a circled arrow here. And in the A section, we have the same A flat major 7 to D flat major 7. So what we've just marked are the candidates for a 1-4 progression. Remember, the 4 chord is the other major 7 chord in a major key, and it's a perfect fifth down from the 1 chord. So now we can see 6 2 5 1 4 progressions, which follow the circle of fifths perfectly. And this gives us an even stronger clue of what the key center is in our song. And now we can assume with confidence that this is a 6 2 5 1 4 in the key of A flat. And this is a 6 2 5 1 4 in the key of E flat. And this one is obviously a 6 2 5 1 4 back in the key of A flat again. We can also add Roman numerals for the chords that are connected to these chords that we've already labeled. So this C7 sharp 5 at the end of the B section is the 5 of 6. And these 2 chords at the end of the song are also a 2 5 of 6. So let's mark the key centers that we know for sure are present. So the song starts in A flat major. Then in measure 9, we're in E flat major. And on the last A section, we're also in A flat major. The only thing we need to do now is to check if the chords that are being tonicized are diatonic to the current key or not. So this C major 7 is being tonicized by a 2-5, and we're in the key of A flat major at this point. So I simply need to ask myself, is C major 7 a diatonic chord in the key of A flat? The answer is no. C minor is a diatonic chord in the key of A flat major. So this is a modulation to C major. And it only lasts for 2 measures because here we're in E flat major. What we have to decide is, where does the modulation occur? When you look at the key of A flat, the 3 chord is C minor. So if we just want to tonicize C minor with its 2-5, we play a D minor 7 flat 5 to G 7 flat 9. And that's exactly what we see in this progression. So the composer is making us think we're going to land on the 3 of A flat, but we get C major instead. Kind of like a Picardy third trick. So at first glance, this is a direct modulation to the key of C major right here on the C major 7 chord. But if we think about it a little bit, D minor 7 flat 5 to a G 7 flat 9 to C major 7 is also a really common progression in the key of C major. D minor 7 flat 5 and G 7 flat 9 are modal interchange chords from the parallel minor. This is very often used. So I would argue that these 2 chords belong to the key of A flat major and C major at the same time. This is known as a pivot chord modulation, in which the chords live in 2 keys at the same time. When I see this, I like to analyze the related 2 chord as the pivot chord. I know most people write the pivot chord on the 5 chord, but in reality, the entire 2-5 is like a pivot pair. So I'm going to write D minor 7 flat 5 as the 2 of 3 in the key of A flat, and pivot to C major as the 2 minor 7 flat 5 chord. For now, I'm going to say that C minor 7 is a direct modulation to E flat major. But in a little bit, I'll show you how this is also a pivot chord. All right, so what about this G major? Is G major a diatonic chord in the key of E flat major? No. Then this is a modulation to the key of G major. And this is the exact same trick that we just saw with the C major 7 chord. In the key of E flat major, G minor is the 3 chord. So A minor 7 flat 5 to D 7 flat 9 is targeting the 3 chord of E flat and resolving deceptively in a Picardy third fashion to G major 7. So using the same reasoning, we have the exact same analysis. A minor 7 flat 5 is a pivot chord, and it's a 2 minor 7 flat 5 of 3 in the key of E flat major that pivots to the 2 minor 7 flat 5 in the key of G major. And the key of G major could last until the A section, where we're back in the key of A flat major again. But what about E major? Is E major a diatonic chord in the key of G major? No. So this is a modulation to the key of E major. And again, we have the similar trick that was used before. In the key of G major, E minor is the 6th chord. And this F sharp minor 7 flat 5 to B 7 flat 9 is used to tonicize the E minor. But then it resolves deceptively to E major 7. So I'm going to write F sharp minor 7 flat 5 as a pivot chord. From a 2 minor 7 flat 5 of 6 into a 2 minor 7 flat 5 of the new key of E major. And it only lasts for 1 measure because this C7 sharp 5 is already in the key of A flat major. Remember, C7 is targeting an F chord, but there are no F chords in the key of E major. So this is a completely different trick. For now, I'm going to write this C7 sharp 5 as a direct modulation to A flat major. Finally, these chords that aren't connected to anything should be diatonic to the current key of A flat major. D flat minor 7 is the 4 minor, a modal interchange chord, very commonly used in jazz. C minor 7 is the 3 chord. And B diminished 7 is the flat 3 diminished 7, which is always used as a passing chord between the 3 and the 2 chords. And that's exactly what we see here. All right, so we're done. Let's go ahead and check our analysis with Mapping Tonal Harmony Pro. And take a look, we got the entire analysis right. There are a couple symbols that I didn't mention during our analysis because it was going to make the process even more dense, and they aren't really relevant to the progression in this song, but we will go over all of them in another video. I hope you can see how interesting having an app like Mapping Tonal Harmony Pro can be when you want to study harmony. Yes, the app knows the analysis for all of the jazz standards repertoire, but the point is not to just open the songs and passively see a solution. It's a great tool to study because it will encourage questions and discussions about harmony that you wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So as always, I hope that was helpful. Mapping Tonal Harmony Pro is available for macOS and iOS. Visit mdex.com to learn more or use the QR code on screen to view the app in the App Store. By the way, if you work with Windows or Android, or you'd rather work like this in book format, I recommend checking out the Jazz Standards Progressions book and the Ultimate Jazz Harmony Workbook. All of our members will receive a PDF to accompany today's video. If you're not a member yet, go ahead and click on the join button right here on YouTube. If you're fascinated by the intricate details of harmony in music and want to explore it further, I highly recommend getting the Mapping Tonal Harmony Pro app available for Mac, iPhone, and iPad. With its comprehensive features and tools, you can dive deeply into the world of tonal harmony and analyze any piece of music that you want. So why not give it a try and see where your musical curiosity takes you?